Oh, he looks so different.
A lot has changed in less than a year. You were with us last in June of 2020, and at that point, you were talking about Georgetown moving forward and plans that were in process, including, I believe, the Canal Boat was one of the things that you discussed. And here we are, and a lot different, and we're looking forward to reopening and moving forward again. For those of you who don't already know Joe, those not discussing the beard, let me tell you a little bit about who he is. Joe has over 25 years of experience in city planning in Washington, D.C. He's a graduate of Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and prior to joining BID, was the VP of Acquisitions for Georgetown-based East Bank. Joe's been in the area for a number of years. He and his wife live in Chevy Chase when they're in DC, and he has two adult children as well. I want to remind everybody that we are recording this program, and so you can watch it afterwards or tell your friends if you feel they've missed it and would have liked to hear it. We do put it on our YouTube station, our YouTube channel rather, and you can access that directly on YouTube or through our website, georgetown-village.org. I also want to let you know that Joe's going to give his presentation first. We will ask that you please mute yourselves during his presentation, so if your phone rings or something, it's not distracting. And there will be time afterwards for people to ask questions. And if Joe doesn't cover something that you're particularly interested in hearing about, I'm sure he'll be happy to answer any questions you might have after the program. And again, Joe, thank you for being here, and we welcome you.
Thanks. Happy to be here. If I can share my screen, you're going to have to allow me to share my screen.
I can do that. Just give me a second. Um, okay, there you go. Making you a co-host.
Okay, so I'm going to show about 40 slides. I'm going to go really fast through them. Let's see, why is this not? There we go. Everybody can see that?
Yes.
Terrific.
Looks good.
So a little bit of what's happening and what's coming next. I think the last time I was with you last May, I just talked generally about what the bid was and what we were working on and went through our programs and all. And I'm not going to do that again. You can always go to our website, georgetowndc.com, if you're interested in knowing about the organization. But let me talk about some of the things that have been going on in Georgetown and some of the things that we're working on. Can everybody hear me okay? Great. Okay, so this is one of the questions that everybody asks, so I just want to get it out of the way very quickly. What's going on with vacancy? And I know Lynn and Tom and others on the call are interested in this topic. We currently, as of mid-March, we had 69 vacant storefronts for which there were not leases signed, representing about 13.6% of all the storefronts and 16.5% of all the square footage, or about 350,000 square feet, a big number for us. It's about twice what it normally would be in any given year, more than twice, let's say. We try to keep our vacancy rate around 6%. That's structural vacancy. Anything over that is something that we tend to be concerned about. We were growing up to about 7% before the pandemic struck, and then we really got hit pretty hard. We've already had 5 closings just this year, but the good news is that we've had 4 openings and then another 10 that have signed leases and are about to open relatively soon. Most of them looking for a spring or early summer opening. And we've been in conversations with all these folks. The brokers report to us that there's a lot of leasing activity. There's a lot of interest in Georgetown. And I think that the quality of the tenants that we've been getting is pretty good. I hope people have been over to places like Foxtrot and Levain Bakery and experience them, because I think they are the future of what's going on. This is a chart. It's a little hard to read, but if you can look from left to right, this is how year over year our pedestrian counts have compared. So in January, we were down 55% from the year before. But if you see the trend line, we're going down less and less. So the average has been, for the first 9 weeks of the year, we were down about, I don't know what the variance, 49%. Right, the difference between 2020 and 2021 so far has been about 49% fewer people on the streets. We have a variety of ways of counting people on the streets. So we still have a ways to go to get back to where we were, and then hopefully go beyond where we were. The Georgetown bid did a program to, or the board rather, did an exercise on what our recovery planning would look like. And we came up with 12 different things, from outdoor dining, technical assistance, working on vacant storefronts, marketing, promotions, core operations enhancement, public art, tax relief, public safety, transportation, and racial justice and equity. And so you can see where they're bold, we've ticked off and really done a fair amount in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the areas. We're still working on 6 of the areas, and we were unsuccessful in our lobbying on behalf of our property owners and tenants for tax relief. Our big initiative right now that we're working on with the marketing team is to bring visitors back to Georgetown, support tenants and leasing, put Georgetown back on people's radar, and to market the transformation of our wider sidewalks, streeteries, public art, and things of that nature. Lynn, do you want me to, when I see somebody coming into the waiting room, you want me to admit them, or are you doing that? All right, you'll do that?
I'm sorry, I'm doing that, yes.
Okay. We hired the marketing firm Habit. They're really creative and clever and fun. And I think people will be really happy with the social media, radio advertising, and print advertising that we're going to be doing in the coming years. I'm sorry, coming months. Starting in late April, and by May, you'll start seeing or hearing radio ads and seeing print ads, hopefully. We've put aside quite a bit of money for this recovery marketing program. Georgetown Glow, I'm actually going out and doing a site visit this evening. We've got 3 installations up and a few more coming. We're going to be doing one section between Friday and the 27th of June, and then we're going to be doing some alley activations this summer between July and September. And we just got permission yesterday to close a little spur of Oak Alley between Lavane and what is now the closed Rira. So we're going to be doing some fun stuff in the alleys. Again, public art to bring people back safely outdoors. Should be fun. This is just some images of some of the things going on. We've been working with the National Cherry Blossom Festival, and we've got an installation up on Book Hill right now as part of the citywide effort, and working with our Book Hill merchants on special promotions around the Cherry Blossom Festival. I think the thing that has probably consumed most of my staff for most of the last 6 months is the sidewalk widening program. We've been working on this since May of last year, with the idea that we would widen the sidewalks with these flush decks so that we would actually have space where people didn't have to sit down in the street. I will say it's one of the more difficult things I've ever permitted in the city over the last 25 years. We had 17 different sign-offs that we had to get from utilities and public agencies and federal agencies, and 6 different offices at DDOT and WMATA. And I think at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock this morning, the last reviewer signed off, and we're hoping to get the permit tomorrow so that we can start installation on Monday. We're really trying to get this thing going. As you know, we did these temporary sidewalk widenings in 2014, 15, 16, or 16 through 17, ended that a few years ago. When COVID broke out, we started doing these streeteries in the middle, and then in 2021, we're going to be doing these decks in the curb lane. So this is what the one that's over by Clyde's looks like. Some of you probably have seen it. We'll have about 4,000 linear feet of decks by the time we're done in mid-May. They'll be mostly fenced in with concrete barriers, some metal barriers, some benches, bike racks, planters. We have a whole sign program, a parking program. It's a pretty complicated and very involved thing to do what we're trying to do here. And we're hopeful that it'll be successful. And if it's successful, we'll be coming back to the ANC and the Citizens Association, other folks in the community to see if they want to extend it. If they don't want to extend it, it will only last until the end of December of this year. This is an early version of where we were going to be installing it. We've cut back a fair amount from this. This was 5,000 feet. We've removed a little over 1,000 feet of the original proposal after going through the sausage maker of the public approval process. Lynn had mentioned the Canal Boat. Here it is. It's up in a boatyard in Dundalk, Maryland. It's 99% complete. We're waiting for the Coast Guard to determine whether or not the 1 mile section that it's going to be run in Georgetown is a navigable waterway. And if it is, we're going to have to put navigation lights and some other safety equipment onto the boat. And if it's not, it doesn't require the navigation lights. And as soon as that's done, we are waiting for the National Park Service to complete the wall project. And I'll show you a picture of that in a minute, to stabilize the wall in back of Chaya so that the boat can run without the wall falling in. And then they're going to have to remove all the cattails, put the water back, and sometime in June or early July, the boat will be back in the water. It'll have trials and tests and all sorts of things for about a month, and then hopefully the mayor will allow us to use it for tours starting later this summer. It'll run through the end of October, and then again all next year. And then after that, the Park Service has, God, I don't want to put a number on it. It's an enormous number. It's, I think, close to $20 million to do restoration work in Georgetown and west of Georgetown on the canal walls, all the way up to Lock 5, so that the canal will finally be able to hold water over a long period of time, hopefully the next 50 to 100 years. So the boat will go out of service for about 2 years, and then we should have smooth sailing after that, no pun intended. This is a picture of what the work looks like over in back of Chaya Taco in the canal. This is just off Wisconsin Avenue. It's an enormous project, and it's a temporary project. This is only to stabilize that wall for 2 years until they come back and spend about $6 million to permanently stabilize it. It's just an obscene amount of money for what it accomplishes, but it has to be done so that the wall doesn't come down. Some other things going on with Georgetown Heritage. They're kicking off the next phase of planning for the park restoration. They're kicking off a capital campaign. They've created something called the Douglas Society as an adjunct to our high-powered board of supporters, doing some resurfacing on the bridges and installing a kayak dock this summer. And they'll also be piloting a curriculum program for 2 DCPS elementary schools this fall. So things are going well. I've been getting a lot of calls about the homeless and panhandling situation in Georgetown. I think everybody realizes that folks do not feel safe in the shelters during COVID. And on top of that, the city and the Park Service has closed Franklin Square, where a lot of folks were hanging out, and they've migrated a lot of them to Georgetown. The good news is that Georgetown Ministry Center has hired a really dynamic and terrific new executive director, Kelly Andre. And we're working with her to set up public facilities and other things throughout Georgetown to accommodate folks until the shelters and the other public accommodations are available again, hopefully later this year. We've been working with the Citizens Association, the ANC, on the mayor's the mayor's liquor license proposed changes. There are 3 different things that she's proposed that impact Georgetown. One is eliminating the cap on tavern licenses. We had a very successful negotiation between the CAG, the ANC, and the BID in 2016, where we came to a consensus position to eliminate the cap and moratorium on the restaurant licenses. And now the mayor is suggesting the tavern license cap be eliminated as well. There's also a proposal to allow open carry on private property between establishments. That would really only affect Washington Harbor and Prospect Place in Georgetown. It's not something that we were aware was coming forward. We didn't propose it, but we're working with the community on talking about what the issues and concerns are there. And then there's also a proposal in the mayor's bill that expands the ability to have summer gardens. That's a big issue in Georgetown, but it's a citywide proposal. So we're talking with the community about this. We've been doing some listening sessions. We had one yesterday morning for the community. We have another one tomorrow night. I'm going to pause for 1 second. I'm going to put this into the chat. If I can figure out how to do that. Let me just pause that and then, sorry, let me go back. How do I get to the chat from here? Is there a chat?
Yeah.
Huh,
Yes, there's a chat. It's at the bottom probably of your screen.
no, it's on the top, but there it is, chat. Okay, and I'm just going to put that there for everybody. If anybody's interested in the liquor licensing work that we're doing, I encourage you to join this meeting. It's tomorrow night at, I think it's 6:30. I'll make sure. Oh, I think I didn't send that to everybody. Sorry, I just sent that to Burke by accident. Oh, open carry of liquor is the answer. Everyone in the meeting is, okay, so, and I think it's 6:30 p.m. Okay, back to where we were. So the gondola. The gondola is by no means dead. It's very much alive. The National Capital Planning Commission, the Federal City Council are finalizing the contract with the contractor to do the preliminary environmental impact study. Councilmember Pinto has made a very generous request of the mayor to acquire the funding to acquire the site at the end of Key Bridge over here where the Exxon station used to be. And it would be for an electric vehicle charging station for fleet vehicles, mostly for Ubers, Lyfts, buses, taxis, to encourage the conversion of those vehicles, to give them a really easy place right off the Key Bridge on the way to or back from the airports and other destinations where they spend a lot of time going back and forth to. So you don't have to run around looking for a major charging station where you can get a fast charge. Our hope is that the mayor will in fact acquire this site, do the charging station that we've worked out with Electrify America, and that sometime in the future, if it's a term that we can in fact and want to build a gondola, we'd have this site for the landing station as well, and future metro station. We're doing a contract to do about 100 tree boxes on M Street and Wisconsin Avenue this spring with flexible porous pavement in the tree boxes. This is not to be confused with the work that DDOT is doing on sidewalks. This is something that got permitted and went through the ANC and the OGB process a couple of years ago. And it is to avoid the tripping hazards and create more walkable space on the sidewalks for pedestrians. We've got our bid employee relief fund. We've distributed over $200,000 to impacted workers. We are working with DDOT now on something called a warrant study. And a warrant study explores whether or not a signalized intersection or a signalized mid-block crosswalk is warranted. They generally are looking to make sure that, well, let me explain what's going on. The distance between Wisconsin Avenue and Potomac Street on M Street is about 660 feet, twice the length of an average block. And we have an enormous amount of jaywalking that occurs. And we also have pedestrians piling up at the intersection of Wisconsin and M Street when things are busy. And so we've suggested to DDOT that we look at a mid-block crossing similar to what they've done on Connecticut Avenue and Cleveland Park and other places. They said that we would have to have at least, I can't remember the number of jaywalkers. It was 15 or 20 an hour. And we counted over 400 on a Saturday and on a Sunday in just a 6-hour period. So it's more than warranted. And we believe that DDOT, now that they've seen this, the data that's been collected, is going to move forward with this, hopefully by the end of 2021, early 2022, make it a much safer pedestrian environment for folks. And I think will really be transformative to help people navigate Georgetown streets. One of the other things that we've been working on, and we've been interviewing consulting firms, is to do a really serious internal look at ourselves as an organization and also at our community and our business community, to see what we should be doing to be more intentional about battling racism in our community, in our organization, and doing a screening for diversity, equity, and inclusion in all the work that we do, all aspects of our work, from our board appointments to the way we do contracting. So we're excited about this work, and we've just started looking at that. We're doing a trailhead at the end of Water Street, starting this spring. It's been approved. And that's sort of everything that's on the plate at the moment. So the overall prognosis for Georgetown is optimistic. Lots of activity, lots of energy, lots of pent-up demand in our customers. So we think we're really well positioned for recovery. And with that, happy to take your questions, and I'll stop sharing my screen.
Joe, so I know there's been a few questions in the chat. I'm not sure. The first one was whether you would be engaging and giving priority to DC artists for the outside art installations from Barbara Hall.
That's a good question. I think the answer is yes. I think all of this year's artists are local, or if not local, in DC city itself, in the DC metro region, but I think most of them are DC artists. We've also been working with the Hirshhorn. I didn't put that in because it sort of stalled during COVID, but we've been working with the Hirshhorn on a project that we were hoping to roll out this year. I think it's now delayed until 2022, with both local and national artists doing word art, temporary word art murals, which is a thing, not something that I was aware of before I went over to the Hirshhorn and learned about it, but they're very excited about doing that with us.
Great. And then the next question is, well, are there any plans for Georgetown Park?
For Georgetown Park, there are lots of plans. We'll see what happens. Yeah, I mean, it's just, we've been talking to them about potential tenants and reaching out to potential tenants and trying to create a marriage. But it's really hard. You know, the national retail environment for big boxes has just been crushed by Amazon during the pandemic. And what Vornado did to the building was really, you know, sinful is the only word I can use. You know, the New York office of Vornado came in, they destroyed all the interior stuff, all the stuff that was interesting. They did not use either the East Bank plan or the Miller plan, and they've created spaces that are really difficult to use. And so they're struggling. I think we've heard some really good rumors about what might be coming into Dean and DeLuca, and I'm hopeful that the city will approve that and let that move forward. There's a huge amount of work that needs to be done to the space to get it operating again as a market, but I think that that Jamestown, the owner of the project, has found a tenant who has the wherewithal to work with them to build the space out. So we're really really happy about that, and I think that they will act as an anchor to bring other tenants in. Unclear what they're going to do with the guts of the place, because they've just got a huge amount of empty space in the building.
And that artist thing you're talking about for Dean?
No, Artisan Freeze is no longer. If they come in, they'd come in on a temporary basis. They're in negotiations with a permanent tenant.
Okay. And so then another question, Tony wanted to know, what is a trailhead? You spoke about the trailhead.
Oh, a trailhead is the Capitol Crescent Trail. It's the beginning of the Capitol Crescent Trail, where you go to the end of Water Street right now, and you see that gate between the Potomac Boat Club and the Washington Canoe Club. And there's a staircase that sort of goes up to the canal level from Water Street. And the area back there is really a mess. It's just a mud pit. It doesn't feel very safe. We got a grant from the city a few years ago to do a plan and to execute on that plan, and we're in the process of doing that now. It's now all approved. OGB and the Commission of Fine Arts have approved it. We've got a contractor all lined up, and I think they're going to be breaking ground next month.
And then Faye asked if you can update us with respect to the proposed changes to the bus service regarding the D6 and buses that run along Wisconsin Avenue.
Sure. So I don't know how many people are aware of this, but Metro runs on a different fiscal year than the city. They have a fiscal year that starts July 1st. It's like a school system fiscal year. And they are by law obligated to propose a balanced budget. And because the latest version of the CARES Act, the $1.9 billion bailout that included transit facilities, had not passed, they had no idea if or how much funding they would be getting to maintain the rail and the bus system. So they said, based on the amount of money that we have and what our ridership is, we are going to drastically eliminate bus service. And so they not only proposed eliminating just an crazy amount of bus system across the region. The impact on Georgetown was the elimination of the D2, the D6, the G2, the 38B, the 31, and the 33. And to replace it all with limited additional service to the 30N and 30S, and that was it. I could be getting a couple of those things wrong, but the global idea here is that we would be devastated by this. We organized a coalition of folks to respond to that, saying this would just kill us in so many ways. And soon after the proposal came out, after Metro had held most of the hearings, the CARES Act passed. It looks like Metro will have sufficient funding to get them through fiscal 2022, I think. So about a year and a half until we can get bus service back up and people are using the bus system again because they're inoculated and feel safe. And that's going to be the next really big challenge, is to get people back onto public transit. Because if they don't, we're going to have Carmageddon. And unless you ride a bike around, you're not going to want to get in your car, during the day. It's just going to be awful. We've got to get people back on public transit.
Absolutely.
So the answer is, I think that those routes continue to be, especially the D and the Gs, continue to be relatively low ridership routes, although very important routes. And I think Metro is looking very carefully at them, and they will perennially be on the chopping block if Metro continues to have financial woes, which I think is highly likely. So something to keep your eye on.
That's all the questions in the chat. However, people are welcome to unmute yourself if you have any questions. So it looks like Emily has a question.
Hi, Joe. Thank you very much for an informative presentation. I was wondering what you think the effect of the mayor's proposed changes on May 1st will have on Georgetown.
I think positive. I've been talking to some of our folks who are really looking forward to things like expanding entertainment and outdoor music and things of that nature. It's hard for, like, Blues Alley won't open again May 1st because it takes him a long time to line up the artists and to get it all done. He just can't turn the switch on one day. He's got to bring his staff back. He's got to get the place ready. But other places, I think, Georgetown Piano Bar and other places will start again with 25% capacity if allowed to do so. The restaurants are all looking forward to the outdoor dining that we're going to be expanding for them. And they're hopeful that at some point, the real problem with restaurants is we now know from around the country, all the states that have the, for lack of a better word, right-wing nutcase governors. The restaurants are super spreading places, right? And I think the mayor has been extremely cautious, and rightfully so, because she doesn't want a fourth wave. And the new variants are much more transmittable. So I think that it's going to be a little while, even beyond May 1st, where we see the cap above 25% indoor dining go up. But I think we'll see the Georgetown theaters down at the Ritz reopen with some limited capacity, which will be good for the restaurants who are doing outdoor stuff, and we'll slowly rebuild. So I'm very positive about it. Until the Smithsonian reopens, until the Kennedy Center reopens, until the big cultural institutions in the city reopen, it's going to be hard for us to get the type of pedestrian volumes that we've experienced prior to COVID. but we're doing our best to bring people in from the neighborhood, the close-in suburbs, and the larger region, within 50 miles to visit.
Are there any other questions for Joe?
Yes, Joe, Carol Kelly here. Let me also add my thanks to Emily's and Lynn's and others for your joining us. You talked about the outdoor restaurants and Georgetown Glow, which sounds very interesting. Among other organizations, Georgetown Village is trying to figure out what makes sense for our members and what's safe. And, to the extent we're moving out, it might be more outdoor locations. Do you have any other suggestions for outdoor activities in Georgetown at some point?
Well, this is what I'll say. I've been looking at the CDC guidelines and the mayor's guidelines. Once you've got 2 vaccinations and a couple weeks have gone by, you should feel pretty good about going pretty much anywhere you want with a mask on. And we're just hoping more and more people get vaccinated. So the waterfront is great. Fish Market Square on the canal is a great space to hang out in outdoors. We've been spending a lot of time building more and more of these outdoor locations. Sandlot, which is sort of a younger vibe, is going to be opening over at across from the Four Seasons at the intersection of Pennsylvania and M Street, with some food trucks and some picnic tables and all, and a good place to hang out both during the day and in the evenings. And then we'll have, I think the count's going to be 35 or 36 streeteries, in addition to all the places you can eat outdoors that you could before, like on Prospect Street or down at the harbor. So, 36 places that never had outdoor dining before the crisis, but people seem to really enjoy it, and we're trying to accommodate them as best we can to make them as safe as possible. We've got outdoor seating that we put behind Dean and DeLuca. We've got outdoor seating that we've put down in Waterfront Park. So yeah, I don't know what the situation is at Dumbarton Oaks or at Cemetery or at the museum. I can't say whether they're open or not, but hopefully they will be relatively soon.
And as a follow-up to Carol's question, in terms of the outdoor seating that you put and you were talking about, is there seating that would maybe accommodate maybe 10 to 12 people?
I think the mayor's guidelines are still for smaller parties than that. I have to go back and look. Does anybody know off the top of their head? Have you looked at the latest rules?
Outside is up to 20. I could be wrong.
Oh, it is. Okay. So, yeah, I think a lot of the restaurants could accommodate.
So here's my question, and not necessarily restaurants, okay? If we had a group that wanted to get together like a book discussion and sit outside, is there anywhere that you know of, in terms of outdoor seating that wouldn't entail them needing to go in and purchase food and beverage?
Yeah. We're just counting the number of tables that we have out in Fish Market Square. I have to go out and look to see how many you could put together, but if you give us a couple weeks and you call our staff ahead of time, I can have the guys put the tables together out there and have you set up a little event space for you.
Excellent, thank you so much.
Sure.
And then I think I saw Gail had a question. Gail, you're muted, you need to unmute.
Thank you. I understand the restaurants can only seat up to 6 at a table outside. Is that something that's being considered to expand any larger than 6 at a table?
I know that the Restaurant Association is banging on the mayor and Dr. Nesbitt at the Department of Health on a daily basis to try to get them to expand everything as soon as possible. And the key phrase there is as soon as possible. So when the health indicators are going in the right direction, not the wrong direction, the mayor wants to, provide more space for folks, and she's just trying to protect people from getting
being careful, but it's
being really careful. Yeah,
it's a hard rule when You have 7 in the family.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
So,
You know, she, the poor mayor, has suffered real personal tragedy through this, right? She lost her sister to this.
yes,
And she doesn't want other people experiencing the same thing, so.
of course.
Yeah, but I don't have any insight as to how soon it's gonna happen.
Thank you.
Was there another question? I thought I saw another hand. Perhaps not. Well, thank you so much, Joe. I really appreciate this, and we thank those of you who have joined us. I want to remind you that on April 21st, we have Megan Wallace speaking on wills, trusts, and estates as part of our Cocktails, COVID, and Community series. And so we hope that you will be joining us for that. Once again, this is open to the community. And Joe, again, I really thank you for your time, and I particularly thank you for your invitation to call the office so that you can set up tables for us. That's wonderful and very.
Yeah, give me 2 or 3 days notice, and we'll put some signs. I don't know. It's public space. We're not supposed to do it, but if you do it once a year, we'll figure it out, right? I'll blame Tom.
Hi, Tom.
I'm sure Tom has no problem with that, right, Tom?
Great. All right. Nice to see you all.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
again.
you
for your
so
time.
much, Joe.
Just trying to put faces with names, that's all. I just